Ladies and gentlemen, I am Emelia Cowans-Talyor. I'm with the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I'm their Assistant Head of Communications. Thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to introduce my co-host for today, Zack Lemann. He is the Chief Entomologist for the Audubon Butterfly Garden and Insectarium in New Orleans, and also the collector of our mystery ingredient today, which you'll be hearing more about very shortly. Welcome, Zack.
Thanks, Emelia. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, we would love to have
This is such a cool event. It's like my fourth Bugfest, and you know, there's nothing wrong with having a Bugfest that having 35,000 more people at it won't make even better.
Oh my goodness, yeah. 35,000 people will converge on this museum and out on Bicentennial Plaza on tomorrow. And this Bugfest Critter Cook-Off serves as our official media preview and kickoff, and we thank you all for being a part of it. And if there's a little bit left over after our celebrity judges get a taste of this wonderful food here, you all can partake as well. So let's introduce our judges and our chefs.
Okay, now I got to put my glasses on. Don't turn 40 anything, kids. All right, I didn't have to do this last time I was up here. So off here, I'm gonna move over so that I can introduce these folks properly. We have Chef Marc Vanscoy from TAVERNA AGORA Greek Kitchen and Bar, along with Aaron Moody serving as sous chef. And there's a third person there. Hello, third person there. Awesome. So Marc has been a chef in the Raleigh area for 15 years and with LM Restaurants for about 3 years. French cuisine is his background, and he has a passion both for food and for making people happy. Sounds like you're in the right line of work, man. All right, and I think we're going to be chatting with you guys a lot about what you're prepping. Let me introduce the competition. Come over here. And I have Mario Ledezma, who is the chef at Sullivan's Steakhouse in Raleigh, and he's being helped out by Rob Crawford. It should have been crawfish, don't you think? That would have... Don't worry about it. Mario has been in the restaurant business for 23 years. He's been the executive chef at Sullivan's for 6, and he has a favorite dish to cook, which is soups. And he has a favorite bug, the praying mantis. How about that? You ever eaten a praying mantis? I haven't either. We're behind, you know, especially me. I've been doing this a long time. I should have had a praying mantis by now. All right.
Thank you. And as you can tell, they are already off and cooking and prepping. And today, the bugs that they will have to cook with will be super worms, mealworms, crickets. And our mystery ingredient today is the dragonfly, which is our theme bug for Bugfest. So we're going to learn more about dragonflies in just a moment, but let me introduce our celebrity panel of judges. We have Lynda Loveland. You all know her. You all love her. She is an anchor with WRAL-TV, and she is an Emmy Award-winning and Edward R. Murrow Award-winning journalist. And even at the tender age of 25, which was just last year, she received a 4-H Lifetime Achievement Award. This is a woman who is braver than brave and no stranger to eating bugs. Everybody welcome Lynda Loveland from WRAL-TV. Sean Maroney, Raleigh native, anchors WNCN News at 6, 7, and 11 on NBC 17. And I'm so, honored to be his friend because he's logged about 21,500 miles all around the world in 11 days. You know, it's fun being a journalist, I tell you. And he has been, he actually reported on the farewell tour as President Barack Obama's defense secretary, the farewell tour of President Barack Obama's defense secretary. Welcome, Sean Maroney. Karen Clark is News and Public Affairs with Foxy 107-104, Radio 1 Raleigh. And she's another bug-eating veteran. Her voice charms the airways of Foxy from 10 to 3 every day. And she's a graduate of the School of Journalism at UNC Chapel Hill. Everybody welcome Karen Clark. Steve Daniels has not only been a judge, but he's also been my co-host before, so he's worked on both sides of the coin here. Anchor at ABC 11, and he just can't get enough of eating those buggy dishes. This is about your 5th or 6th time being a judge here.
At least, yeah.
So these are no strangers to this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to do today.
So
also, finally, I almost forgot.
Oh.
Nigel Arms is the director R&D directions, R&D operations and site services at BASF Corporation, and he is an entomologist, that is a bug scientist, and an expert in global agriculture and crop protection and field biology. BASF is one of our sponsors for Bugfest, and without BASF and Terminix, we would not have this wonderful event. Give it up for our celebrity judges, everybody. Nigel Arms, Lynda Loveland, Sean Maroney, Karen Clark, and Steve Daniels.
Sorry about that. I jumped in before you got to introduce Nigel. So I have now got the pleasure of letting everybody know about the rules and the judging criteria for this critter cook-off. The bugs were mentioned recently, just a few minutes ago by Emelia. I think she may have passed up on one, which is waxworms. So in addition to the superworms, mealworms, and crickets, they've got waxworms. And then I will address the mystery ingredient at the end of this little introduction here. The rule that I think is most important here is the bugs must be fully cooked in the food, yet visible enough that we can see them in the dish. Now keep in mind, if you want to do your own bug cooking at home, you don't have to keep the bug whole, but it does add a little something to the presentation, don't you think? So that's why we've got that rule built in there. And the chefs have 50 minutes, so we're already a ways in. As you can see, there's a lot of work furiously going on at the tables to my left here. And they are going to serve to our judges an appetizer, an entree, and a main course, which will be judged on taste, originality, and presentation. So we have these very fancy little judging sheets here, and every dish gets a 1 through 5 rating, with 5 being the best. And the mystery ingredient now, I'll go ahead and reveal that, is dragonflies. Actually, I think that might have been said a moment ago. I'm going to steal your dragonflies, Mario, for just a minute. So if there are some cameras that can get close enough there, you can see that we've got, well, as everybody knows, 4-spotted pennants and eastern pond hawks, right? I mean, everybody knows what kind of dragonflies these are.
That's Sean's dragonfly.
So we did a little hard work down in the swamps of Louisiana, where I'm from, to collect about 150 for this event. We're going to go ahead and use about 20 of them right now for you special judges. And, you know, most people never get to eat a dragonfly, so good luck. And I have a dish that I will do with them during the evening in festival tomorrow at the end of Bugfest, but I have no idea what the chefs are going to do with them today, so it's kind of exciting. And I love me some dragonflies. So that's the rules and the judging criteria for everybody. Everybody's got it?
Got it.
Good, good. All right, and I think everyone's getting a good close look at them. So, if you're interested in eating dragonflies, I'll just tell you real quickly. First, get yourself an aerial net. You're going to be running around in a field like a classic little nerdy bug person trying to catch dragonflies, which isn't easy to do. So, keep in mind that on a species-by-species basis, there are dragonflies that cruise. They fly all the time. They never land, which means you have to catch them while they're flying, and you will fail more than you will succeed. So, you might consider targeting dragonflies that perch often and at ground level. That makes them a lot easier to grab, and that is the case with the dragonflies that I provided today.
All right, so let's chat a little bit with our chefs and see how they're coming along. Right now, they're getting ready to plate up the appetizers, and I will reveal those names to you momentarily. So one of the things that I often do is I take the bugs to the chefs for them to sample and try and experiment with before they come up with these fancy titles and create these amazing bug-tastic dishes for our celebrity judges. So, Chef Marc, what was it like experimenting with those bugs?
Definitely different. I can honestly say I've never eaten a bug on purpose, so it was definitely challenging to incorporate it in food.
So, as it relates to other forms of protein, did you find that they cook up faster, slower? The texture, does it change while you're cooking?
Texture definitely changes. They cook pretty fast. They're not very big little things. But a lot of them have a nutty flavor to them. So it's just different. But
all right, and if Mario can give us a little summation of what's going on over here, I'll ask the same question though for starters that Emelia asked Marc. Mario, have you cooked with insects before?
No, I have not, and it was fun though.
So you've played with this enough in the kitchen that you're confident in what you're doing here, and it's going to be super tasty?
Of course it is.
Excellent. Well, I can tell you that when I cook bugs, I'm always careful not to expose them to a really high heat really quickly because they'll burst. And it's fine if you're making a gravy or a paste, but if you want to keep them whole, you have to watch that heat level. And as Marc was saying a minute ago, they do cook pretty fast, but they're quite versatile. You can stew them, you can bake them, you can boil them, you can grill them, but you might want to skewer them first, otherwise they'll fall through the slats in the grill unless you've got a really big bug to cook.
And speaking of, you're going to be cooking tomorrow at Bugfest, so tell us what you're going to be doing, Zack.
Well, part of Bugfest has always been your terrific Cafe Insecta, where everybody who comes in gets free samples of bugs from lots of area chefs, and in this case, one person who's from out of state. So there's going to be all sorts of wonderful dishes there. I'm going to have a sweet and spicy six-legged sampler. So I've got chocolate chirp cookies. I know, it's hilarious, right? Get it? Chocolate chirp cookies? What a great audience. There it is. There it is. I've also got some mango and apple chutney with waxworms in it. So those are my two sweet dishes. And then I'm also doing crispy Cajun crickets and Southwest waxworms. And fortunately for me, they're all cooked, so I don't have to be slaving over the heat for the 5 hours or so that we'll be serving bugs. But then, in the evening, from 5 to 7, I'll have my dragonflies that I love to cook, and also a little twist on a famous southern dish. I'll be serving red beans and yikes.
I'm sorry, and what?
Red beans and yikes.
See, I heard lice, so.
Oh, gosh, no.
Red beans and yikes.
I'm sure lice are edible, but how many would you have to get just to get a mouthful? You know, they're tiny little things.
So for our appetizer, Chef Marc here, Chef Marc Vanscoy from TAVERNA AGORA will be creating a cricket crouton watermelon salad. And Chef Mario Ledezma from Sullivan's Steakhouse will be preparing cricket cheesesteak egg rolls.
Okay, all right.
And they should be plating those up rather soon.
Have we talked to the judges about their general expertise? I know we've got some repeats here, but I don't know, like, if Nigel, who's from all the way across the pond, has sampled insects before. You got a mic, so I'm curious.
Oh, yeah. Is this on?
It's on.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for me, I've eaten bugs a lot. I used to live in Asia for a long time, and pretty much most dinners you go to, there'll be a plate of some kind of a bug. Crickets, water...
Get a little closer to your mic. I can hear you, but I don't know if everyone can. Yeah. So you were in Asia where depending on where you are, insect eating is commonplace?
That's right, yeah, pretty common. Southeast Asia, China. Generally, if you go for a fancy dinner, there'll be at least one plate of bugs on the menu.
So when you look at those plates, what type of bugs are common? So when we're in our gardens, we can say, oh, well, people overseas, they're eating these.
Yeah, crickets, water scorpions, very popular like in Thailand. They make a nice, really interesting paste out of water scorpions.
Water scorpions?
What are water scorpions?
They look...
And where can I avoid them?
Right, exactly.
They're pretty big. They're about like 3 or 4 inches long. Got a big, like, looks like a stinger-like thing, but it's actually their breathing tube. Huh. It's because they live in the water. Oh. So, but they...
So they're snorkeling scorpions.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Well,
But
that changes how restaurant inspections are done, doesn't it?
yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that, Lynda. You're talking about restaurant inspections, right? So the museum where I work in New Orleans has an area called Bug Appetit, and we serve edible insects every day. And we're in a federal building, but the health inspector does the same thing that a city health inspector would do. And they're basically concerned with hold safe temperatures, you know, whether it's warm or cold, and keeping it at the right temperature to avoid microbial things that you don't want to eat, right? And they're concerned with sanitation, you know, whether you have a dishwasher or a 3-sink system to clean stuff. They've never asked me a thing about where the bugs were raised, how they were procured, how they were handled, because basically if you have a dish with an insect in it and it needs to be kept in the fridge, the important thing is that the whole thing needs to be at a certain temperature. And if you fried them or roasted them, it's effectively like a potato chip. It has a pretty long, if not indefinite, shelf life. So it's interesting that you should ask that question. It's just not on their radar.
And you can't get more organic than bugs, right?
You cannot. I mean, there are certain things. There are some startup companies now that are raising insects specifically for human consumption, and so what they're being fed is becoming of more importance. You know, the people who are raising them are saying, how can we feed a good product, just like you want to feed certain things, you know, to beef and poultry to make them organic.
So you said that you had to chase down these dragonflies, which means that they were not raised for human consumption. So we're just eating dragonflies just out in the world.
Yeah.
Worldly
Well,
dragonflies.
they clear out the GI tract before they serve them.
Yeah, well, so if you want to be exceptionally cautious, if you've either ordered a bug that's come to you live from a farm, or if you've gone out and caught one, you can either, if it feeds on vegetable matter, give it something bland like apple or lettuce, and that would flush its system, or you can not feed it for a couple of days, and everything will just kind of clear out. And so purging, which we do with other foods that we eat, is an advisable thing to do, but I can tell you now that I've done this for 20 years, I've caught an awful lot of bugs that I just didn't have time to purge, never had a problem. So
Nice.
it's not to be worried about. Dragonflies are predatory, so as nymphs, they're living in water, they're feeding on other things in the water, other live animals, and as adults, dragonflies are also predatory. So these are carnivores, if you will, and yeah, went out and caught them, stuck them in the freezer, now they're all yours.
So how long did it take you to collect 200 dragonflies, Zack?
It was multiple trips. So when I was out in the daytime, I was actually pretty productive. If you're in a good spot, you can catch about one a minute. I mean, you got to catch it, you got to get out of the net, you got to put it in the envelope, you got to set it aside, and then you go off and catch the next one. And that's in a place that's really replete with dragonflies, right?
A place
But I
like
will
what?
tell you,
Like where do you go?
Louisiana.
the swamp.
Just
Yeah.
the swamp.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
got it. All right.
I mean, we've got green space about 30 minutes from my house where I can get them. My real problem, because I wanted to bring several hundred, is that it kept raining. Like every time I had a day off, the weather was too poor. And really, the majority of them I caught in the evening. And here's the trick. One of the dragonflies that these chefs are going to fix for us are four-spotted pennants, which always perch on woody vegetation over water. So we get in a flatboat at night, we motor out to a branch, and there's 100 dragonflies on that branch. We got headlights on, we walk right up to them and grab them, and oh, if by the way we jostle the branch and they fly, they come to the headlight. Either way, they end up in the boat.
Wouldn't it
So-
be easier just to go to a big parking lot and pick them off the grill?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know what kind of nasty stuff that car grill has on it. I want a clean dragonfly.
Clean dragon.
Depends on how nice of a car.
All right, the cheesesteak egg roll.
Yeah.
It smells good.
Ooh, that looks desserty. Yes, everything smells terrific. I'm sure the folks that are here are sort of saying, when are these chefs going to be done so we can have some of these yummy bugs too? That is what everybody's thinking, right? Yep.
Can you see this, Rob?
So, Emelia, while this is all getting served, should I get the formal name of this appetizer and the preparation from these chefs? Okay. Well, hold on. You can tell us, Robert.
It's a cricket Philly cheesesteak egg roll.
This is the
Okay, so Sullivan's has got a cricket Philly cheesesteak egg roll. And then let's get Aaron over here to tell us what this appetizer is.
Watermelon and Jiminy Cricket crouton salad.
Watermelon and Jiminy Cricket crouton salad. All right. So we've got something kind of meaty and something kind of fruity as the appetizer dish.
Oh,
And the judges have all got their
sorry.
phones out. You need to switch from your phones to your forks, judges.
Need another set of food.
wow.
Everyone wants a photograph of the food. Actually, I do too. Where's my phone?
No, I think.
Look at that.
Does everybody have a set?
We're missing egg
We're a
rolls.
set of
Egg roll and
egg
some
rolls
silverware.
and some silverware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the silverware.
That is excellent.
Oh,
I have two for now.
thanks.
I'm going to get a nice picture of this wonderful looking stuff.
Eating at the
Okay, yes.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Of the egg roll? Okay.
And just by way of reminder, the judges are looking at presentation, originality, and of course, taste.
I got to put a little cricket on there for you, huh?
Tell you what, the cricket adds a crunch to this, but the medley of flavors is excellent.
Oh,
This is the cricket cheesesteak egg roll from Chef Mario. Fresh crickets, crispy crickets.
Great presentation.
All right.
Nailed it on
And
that.
we
This is
have
a
another
pretty good
egg
sign, Amelia. Typically, when people are enjoying their food, they're not talking, right?
I know.
And the judges
I know.
are all just
The silence is a good sign.
Chowing
The
down.
silence means it's wonderful.
There's some big meaty crickets in here too.
Sean, I just love how you just attack that cricket. I tell you. I tell you. So again, Chef Marc created the cricket crouton watermelon salad. So there were croutons with crickets baked into them, and Chef Mario cricket cheesesteak egg rolls. And we have another egg roll plate coming for Nigel.
Wouldn't know these were cricket.
And Nigel told us about living in Southeast Asia, and I remember the 3 judges from the 2015 Bugfest. Lynda, I didn't get around to asking if you had had insects before, either here or in some other venue.
I've had a few crickets before, mostly as a kid riding a bike.
So this is
That
a
was
nice
about the extent of
this
it.
is a nice entree into entomophagy, because you've got some high-end chefs fixing these bugs for you.
The bugs I had were very fresh, though. These are fantastic.
Mario, I have a question for you.
Oh,
This,
Mario?
this sauce is fantastic. Tell us about what you put in this.
In the egg roll,
And the egg roll sauce, yeah.
we had the egg roll is a sweet chili sauce, and we also make a dry mustard sauce, an English mustard.
Dry mustard and what was the
honey
first
mustard.
thing?
Honey mustard. Sorry.
Honey mustard.
Yeah,
Honey mustard and what's the other sauce?
the sweet chili sauce.
Sweet chili.
Not a whole lot of space, so it's probably
Everybody likes honey, right? Speaking of things that insects make for us to eat. Even though, you know, they throw it up. Everybody knows that, right? Honey's bee barf. Honey is what? Did I say that?
Honey
it is.
what?
Honey is bee barf.
Now, will people tell us if we have
Honey
bugs
is
in our
bee
teeth,
barf?
please?
Well, I don't like thinking about honey like that. I don't want to think of honey as bee barf.
Well, for people who are a little hesitant to expand their gastronomic horizons, think about some of the things you do eat.
Not good.
Crustaceans, which are basically just bugs that live in the water.
Not good.
Eggs. Where do eggs come from again? We're not going to go there. It's a family show, right?
So
Oysters?
I didn't know that some dragonflies can fly backwards.
Almost all dragonflies can fly backwards.
Oh, wow.
And forwards, and sideways, and straight up and down, and turn on their own axis.
Does that seem,
and
is
hover.
that the reason why it seems like when you're getting out of your car or leaving your house that they're aiming right for your head when you when you're walking? I'm like, why is this dragonfly coming right toward me?
Well, they see extremely well, but they can't always see what they want from a distance. So they may fly towards something they're interested in, and then at the last second juke and jive and move out of the way.
You know, for the egg roll, I thought the flavors would overpower the cricket, but the cricket adds a really nice crunch to it. It really complements it. But for this salad, it's just, it's got great tang, and we have what, deep fried crickets in the salad?
Chef?
The crickets
Deep
in the
fried
crickets in the salad were fried.
Absolutely.
They're in the crouton.
Yeah, they're the croutons.
Used vegetable oil. What kind of heat and for how long?
Vegetable oil, I did about 250 for 3 minutes.
So if you're watching your carbs, no croutons, but fried crickets and more protein.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, which is that nutritionally, in addition to having a pretty high amount of protein per body weight, insects have also got a lot of other elements and minerals that are very good for the human body. They've now been looked at in labs fairly carefully, and it looks like across the board they've got high amounts of phosphorus, iron, calcium, riboflavin, niacin, thiamine. These are all things we need in our diet. And while every insect isn't the same in terms of its fat and carbohydrate and protein ratio, just like fish isn't the same as chicken isn't the same as beef, there's no reason to expect a termite, which eats wood, to be the same nutritionally as a caterpillar that eats leaves or a dragonfly that eats other bugs. But there are these things that we are well off eating that a lot of insects have abundant amounts of.
Awesome.
Karen, you've been really quiet. I have not heard a peep out of you. You've just been eating.
It's delicious. All of it is so good.
And both dishes are just so different, too. That's the thing.
Totally
What's
different.
great about it, even the watermelon salad,
You got the hot
the
dish.
flavors are so different. Yeah,
So
it's
different.
just, yeah.
So I think this is going to be tough. I mean, it's like every year the bar is set higher and higher and higher, and both of these restaurants are known for their presentation anyway. So this is going to be a tough, I don't envy you guys this year. I mean, every year it just gets harder and harder or more challenging. And, you know,
You're right. These guys are taking it to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
These are
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
I was saying earlier, Mimi, that my first year here, you remember the year I was pregnant and
Yes.
you tricked me into doing this? It was like gumbo and then just like worms sprinkled on top. And that was it. Now it's like a whole thing, a whole
Experience,
production.
yeah.
I love it.
yeah, and you know, that's one of the reasons I asked the chefs about textures, because, you know, a half a cup of crickets cooks up, is a lot of bugs, you know, and it cooks up quite differently than chicken or beef. So as our chefs are getting things ready for the entree, Chef Marc is preparing pan-seared pork chop over giant beans with dragonfly fruit compote.
Wow.
I know. Listen to these names. Like I said, so give me a fancy name.
Give me.
They took it to the next level, okay? And Chef Mario, bacon-wrapped scallops with mealworm puree and superworm relish. Right. I know, like I was done at pork chop. You had me there. So, all right, they're getting them ready.
That's very clever of Mario to use that one food that everybody likes, the mealworm, to go along with his bacon.
Oh, I thought you meant bacon.
Go along with his bacon.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Deep fried, yeah.
That's terrific. And for those of you who are sticking around for the end so that you can have some of the awesome leftovers if the judges leave anything, I would be remiss if I did not remind you, if you have an allergy to shellfish, you probably are allergic to insects also.
I would love that.
So be mindful of that. It's always a good idea to avoid eating insects if you know you can't eat crustaceans.
If you are pregnant, and I did not trick her, I tried her to tell her, do not participate. And she participated anyway. So thank God Mr. Brian is here.
To the mom that's over there, I did it first trimester. First trimester.
The doctor loved it.
Oh my! Like the worst time to decide to eat bugs.
So you have the healthiest. You had the healthiest baby ever, right?
He's very tall and strong now.
Right.
He's very tall and strong.
Give the bugs the credit.
Somebody over here is going to have a larva soon? Is there a pregnant mom?
No, I always
say. I see those parents with their young child.
Yeah,
just
the little
child.
Well, I've been cooking and serving bugs to people for 20 years, and I've had an awful lot of pregnant ladies have insects, and there's
you get weird cravings, I hear.
Nothing the matter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are no weird cravings first trimester. You just want to die.
So if you have a shellfish allergy or you are pregnant, I don't advise you to try the bug-filled dishes. Otherwise, enjoy if there's some left over. All right.
All right.
Okay.
There's an awful lot of cooking going on back here. Looks great. How is all this stuff, guys?
It's awesome.
Yeah, everybody over here was raving about it.
Melon salad.
Looks wonderful, too.
Crickets deep fried there into the croutons with an awesome balsamic reduction.
So just to let you guys know, tomorrow is our 21st annual Bugfest. Bugfest is the biggest event that we have here at our museum. We bring out crowds of close to 40,000 people, and they converge on this main museum, across the bridge in our Nature Research Center, outside on Bicentennial Plaza, and there will be tons of fun activities for the kids. Face painting, they can make their own crafts. They can, of course, participate in the Cafe Insecta, where you can line up all the way down to Wilmington Street for a taste at some yummy dishes prepared by local chefs. And Zack Lemann will be cooking on tomorrow as well.
And there's more to it than that. You've got live insects. You've got people from the USDA here. All kinds of exhibitors and booths with great information. I think there are 2 special dragonfly talks. One given by someone from right here in the museum, and one from an entomologist from Texas. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic event. And you dialed up some awesome weather too.
Yes. Oh, I hope so. And you know, it's a great opportunity to really turn your fears into fascination. That's one of the reasons why we have Bugfest, and one of the reasons why we kick it all off with the Bugfest Critter Cook-Off. So I'm going to help clear some of these dishes and get ready for our next course.
All right.
Don't get down from the table.
And you know, people travel from other states. In fact, I see one of our spectators who's been here every year. You've come down from what? Maryland, right? That's right, Maryland, every year. Same spot, yeah?
Wow. Tell everybody your name and how many Bugfests you've attended.
Okay, my name is Beatrix Whitehall, and I've been here for 13 years.
13? That's pretty good. That's more than I've done, that's for sure. And you've got a stink bug on your shirt. I'm a fan of stink bugs. You know, who doesn't like a good stink bug? So we referenced a little bit earlier the things that Nigel got to eat when he was in Asia. There are certainly places all over the world where insects are regularly consumed. Sub-Saharan Africa, Central and South America. And if you go to Oaxaca, Mexico, the open markets there serve the nymphs of grasshoppers that they call chapulines, and the stink bugs are humiles. And I've had some humiles before. I was not a big fan, but that's because I have the palate of a 12-year-old. And I only like things that are pretty salty or pretty sugary. And so if you have taste buds that lean towards the bitter or the sour, you know, things like kale, for example, leafy greens, or beer, I don't like any of that stuff, and they have a little bit of a sharpness to them. Now, the joke of this is, well, it's a stink bug. Of course it tastes sharp. But the fact of the matter is that when you introduce heat to something, you can denature the chemicals substantially. And my boss, one night we were out at a black light, a UV light collecting insects, and he said, well, I'm not in Oaxaca. I wonder what one tastes like just raw. And a lot of us, you know, that try to cook insects, we like to sample them live as well to see what the difference is. I will tell you, by the way, I'm not a big fan of dragonflies when they're not cooked, but cooked, they're fantastic. So anyway, he had this stink bug, and the defensive chemicals kind of made like a mentholated, like an effervescence, he said, in his mouth and in his throat. He didn't mind it, though, but the humiles that I had when they were cooked, it was just a little sort of a sourness, almost like you would get from a citrus fruit, which I don't like. So to each his own. If you go to Oaxaca, try the humiles. Just one guy's opinion. All right, so we're getting ready to plate and serve the mains. Is that right? Looks like we're getting there. Oh, wow. Mario, tell us what this bacon-wrapped awesomeness is again.
It's bacon-wrapped scallop with the mealworm puree with a little bit of garlic and oil, a little barbecue seasoning, and topped with the superworm relish.
Wow. That's three fantastic animals, if you eat animals. Pig, scallop, and beetle larvae. That's looks great. Looks great. And what are we getting ready to finish here with the pork chop?
We're doing pan-seared pork chop over giganta beans. They're giant navy beans that we stew in tomato sauce.
I've already got some of that.
A little bit of tomato feta, and then I have the dragonfly fruit compote to go on top.
Nice.
How are the dragonflies holding up in the fruit compote?
I think they're all right.
I always worry about my dragonflies when I cook them. I like to fry them and put them on a slice of sauteed mushroom and drizzle some Dijon soy butter on top. I call it my odinate hors d'oeuvre. But I'm always mindful of their abdomens because they're very thin and delicate. And again, if you want to present the bug whole, you have to be careful of that.
Always mindful.
Boy, there was some sizzle going on back there. Wow.
Where are you going in the mountains? What part?
I'll be in Berkeley. So
These look beautiful.
it's good.
Right here. All right, I can help plate. Ooh.
I can bring one of these over for you as well.
Good. Okay, let's remind everybody what these dishes are. Chef Marc, tell us again.
I don't know what I like more. The beach
Pan-seared
I really like
pork chop
I like that
over
one better.
giganta beans with cabbage, tomato feta, and the dragonfly fruit compote.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, sir.
So mealworms are in this scallop bacon medley, and pureed with a little bit of garlic and oil on the bottom. That's a nice base. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
It smells wonderful.
These are the mealworms?
These are the
Are these
mealworms.
microgreens on top? Nice.
Can you give it a few more minutes? Sure. Okay.
So there's some samplers being passed around, I think, by Amelia right now, and the pork chop is coming. And by the way, we use the term worm for a couple of these things. We've got our waxworms and our mealworms and our superworms. They are insects, they're not worms. Mealworms and superworms are both larvae that will become darkling beetles, unless, of course, you cook and eat them first. And the waxworms that I think we've got some of here for these guys to cook today, I haven't seen them yet, but I read them on my paper. The waxworm is a type of caterpillar.
Hands off my food, woman. Look at that.
Got cricket croutons here.
Y'all really are getting a whole meal today.
Don't be afraid, young man.
You know, I always
There we
get
go.
such flack at the office and with friends and family about
Share those with
coming here. This is my 4th year. And I laugh at them and I go, first of all, I can always guarantee at least one decent meal a year. And that's coming here.
Right? You come back smiling, fat and happy, right? I mean, they're feeding you.
People
All
are
right.
always incredulous, like, oh my
You guys
gosh,
ready?
you're going to
I can
do
help
that.
you
But
with
this
this
is
if
the
you like.
best stuff, Mimi. I did not see you make that face. There you go.
Oh! Wow.
Holy
Shut the
moly.
front door.
Oh,
Wait
my
a minute.
goodness.
That's only one of them. There's 5 of them coming.
Oh, my goodness,
See?
that
That's
crouton
not
was
for you to
amazing.
share. You're each getting a plate.
Yeah, that got the crowd going. Now everyone's paying attention.
I'm a whole entree behind, but that cricket crouton was awesome.
Gosh, look at that.
Oh, is that all
This
of them? Okay,
looks
here we
pretty
go.
special. All right, so there's pork chop behind you guys, Steve and Sean and Karen. And I'm going to take a photograph of it too. It really does look pretty.
I should have worn my eating pants. I didn't wear those.
My eating pants.
Okay, now describe the pork chop to us again.
Yeah, where's the bugs?
Yeah, I'm looking for the bug.
We're actually looking for the bugs.
Oh, there
'cause
it
we
is.
want the bugs.
The bugs are actually in the sauce.
It's a dragonfly,
Oh, that's
right?
the dragonfly.
That's the first taste of dragonfly.
Oh, it is.
Compote.
The compote.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got a fruit compote there that's got dragonflies mixed into it, I think, from Marc. So you should be able to see the bugs. That is one of the criteria for our chefs today.
Yes, you have to be able to see the bugs. They can't be ground up in there. We have to see them.
This looks great. I wish I had the ability to make something that looked that pretty and tasted that good. I mean, I've been cooking bugs for 20 years, and everybody says, so where's your restaurant? I say, no. There's two kinds of bug chefs. There are people with culinary training who have learned to incorporate insects into what they already do very well, and then there are bug guys who know how to turn the stove on. And I kind of fall into the second camp.
Bug guys.
Fortunately for the folks at Cafe Insecta tomorrow, I'm not completely inept in the kitchen, but this is fantastic.
I just feel like I need to be Vanna with this plate. I'm going to just walk it through.
That's mine.
I know.
Yeah, Nigel's
I'm
like, wait,
bringing
don't
right
steal my
back.
lunch.
We have so many cameras here.
Oh, what? Is this the one with the mealworms in it?
Mealworm puree.
Okay, I happen to be allergic to mealworms. I'm going to pass it around.
Be
I
sure
can eat
to
the other stuff.
hashtag this on social media. Bugfest Critter Cook-Off.
I got a scallop.
2017.
You know, for the
Bacon
scallops
and mealworms.
the mealworms,
Scallop with bacon and mealworms.
really
Good,
provide a
Nigel.
nice
That's
little.
mine.
They go with the meatiness of everything. Like it's all meaty, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Umami
guys.
going on.
I just hope there's an extra pork chop for me.
And when you eat the mealworms singly, I mean, it's earthy, little crunchy but chewy, a little.
It's like a pop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutty taste.
Yeah.
No.
So in addition to all of the activities that people can take advantage of at Bugfest on tomorrow, all of the activities for the kids, the different talks, the different stations that people can go and get up close and personal and touch and feel and learn all about bugs. We'll have some live entertainment. We'll have live music out on the plaza. And for those who don't want to eat bug-filled food, we'll have traditional food out on the plaza, as well as in our own Daily Planet Cafe across the bridge, which is run by Rocky Top Hospitality.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but for this one, for the scallops, you barely notice the bacon. Like, seriously, it adds like a grease to it and a faint hint, but the earthiness of everything else combined and the pop, it's really interesting. It's really good.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I can't get enough worms on my fork. Like,
Yeah, right? That's pretty impressive. How about everybody else? Steve?
The super worm relish in the scallop it's really great. It may be in all the years the best incorporation where the bugs actually are really flavorful, where you enjoy the bugs. You're right. I mean,
It's
it's
so
different.
crazy that we're saying
yeah,
this,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
What's funny is the words that come out of your mouth that when you're here. You never would say that outside of here. But the bugs really had a great tang and texture to the dish, and you would never use those words outside of here.
You're right.
Wow.
the worms really complement the scallop.
Right,
I've been doing
exactly.
this for 12 years. I have never heard these kinds of
I'm sorry, there's a scallop in my bugs. Can you take the scallop out of my bugs?
Nigel, what's the metric comment? That's an English metric joke. Go ahead.
Yeah, from the darkling beetle larvae, I really like the kind of nutty taste it adds to it. It's really
Closer to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. I really like the nutty taste.
Yeah.
Darkling beetles give.
Well, I want to compliment the chefs, and especially if you're making mealworms taste that good. I said a minute ago, I'm allergic to mealworms, which is odd. I can eat other bugs, but I cannot eat mealworms. But I will tell you, having served bugs for a couple of decades, they tend to be, of the common things that we cook, the least popular for most people, just from a flavor profile standpoint. So if you've got people raving about mealworms and superworms, you're doing something really good, because they're a challenge. They're a challenge. They are earthier and maybe a little bit more woody than the other bugs, which, as Marc said earlier, kind of have a nutty taste in general. A lot of people ask what an insect tastes like when you're cooking it, when you're serving it, whether they want to try it themselves or not. And most bugs, if you don't add a lot of other textures and a lot of other flavors to them, have a sort of nutty baseline, but that definition only gets you so far, because a peanut doesn't tast like a macadamia, and a macadamia doesn't taste like an almond, and an almond doesn't taste like a pecan. So you know, there's a lot of variety in them.
I'm hearing that we're having a few challenges that, you know, unlike crickets, mealworms, waxworms, and I know we've had cicadas in the past, we've used beetle larvae in the past, but dragonflies are posing a bit of a challenge, right, Steve?
Yeah, that dragonfly, that was a lot. The dragonfly compote, that is a whole new wrinkle. The worms, the crickets, everything else we've had over the years, the ants we've had some years, they all pale in comparison to the dragonfly. Yeah. That's robust.
It
There's
is.
a lot to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I love his choice of words.
And fibrous, full of fiber.
And
Yes.
fibrous.
Yeah.
All right. This
Well-
is why they're in the news business, guys. They know the right words to say. We know what they really want to say,
Well-
but we know the right words that they're
I thought those were cherries.
they're
Those aren't
searching
cherries.
for. Robust is how we're going to describe dragonflies on today. All right.
I will
Okay.
say that since we didn't give them the dragonflies before about 15 minutes before we started, they didn't get to practice with them. And I'll tell you that there are certain insects that have body parts, wings especially, sometimes legs, that can be really tough to chew, just to chew. Not unlike the leaf of the artichoke. You know, you got that bit at the front you can get, and then the rest of it is kind of impossible. So I have found, at least, that if you fry the dragonfly, everything gets a crispness to it, and you don't have that same robustness that may sometimes be a challenge for the whole chew and swallow portion
So is
of
it
the dining
true
experience.
that birds don't eat the wings of dragonflies?
It depends on the bird, and it depends on the insect. There are certain birds that will specifically pull the insects off, the wings off of the insects that they eat. The few times I've seen sparrows and purple martins catch up to dragonflies, they've eaten the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
I ate the whole thing.
And some dragonflies can actually eat hummingbirds. Is that true?
I've read that. I can't confirm it, but
Okay.
I've read it. But I've seen dragonflies do some pretty amazing things. They'll eat each other,
Oh, yeah.
which is
I did,
which is
yeah.
pretty cool.
They eat each other.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the dragon?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
wing to that.
So how we
Wait,
come
Nigel
out?
was going
You
to say
guys
something
still
else too.
working on something
Well, this is
over
my
here?
first dragonfly. And just for the audience, to me, it's a bit like chewing paper.
Yeah.
It's like a chewy what?
Like if you eat paper.
Paper.
Like chew some paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't have much flavor to it.
Yep.
But,
You want a bigger
Well, it may be a function of how they were prepared, or maybe that's what dragonflies taste like. We're going to find out, because the second round of dragonflies is coming in your dessert from Sullivan's, from Mario. So we'll see whose dragonflies are more tasty.
And so while our judges are finishing up their second, actually the entree, I'm going to just share with you guys what our winner and our runner-up received today. So the winner will receive a plaque from courtesy of Carey Awards that says Bugfest Critter Cook-Off Champion. And our runner-up also receives one that says runner-up.
We expect that to be displayed by your health inspection.
Absolutely. They will also receive this beautiful dragonfly tumbler, courtesy of our museum store. The winner receives a $50 gift certificate to our museum store, which can be used in any of our museum stores, and we have 3 of them. And the winner and the runner-up receive this I Ate a Bug at Bugfest magnet to be displayed prominently on your refrigerators at your restaurant, of course. And the winner will receive this beautiful sculpture, metal sculpture, of a mosquito.
You want some help over there? Hang
Yes,
on.
please.
You got a mic in one hand and a mosquito sculpture in the other hand.
Yes, so our winner receives that mosquito sculpture. And we also want to just do a plug here that our current exhibit, Race, Are We So Different, is running now through October 22nd. And we encourage everyone to go and experience that exhibit. So are we finishing up the entree?
You can go. It's fine. Yeah, yeah. That's
Green
fine.
beans or a
Yeah, no, that's
vegetable,
cool.
and you have the skin that's just left.
You have to do it.
You guys are doing a pretty good job there.
This is how I find the dragonflies. When you're eating vegetables and the meat, the starchiness of the vegetables are gone, you just got the skin left.
Oh my.
That's dragonflies. You're just
Did you
chewing
get
on the
like
skin.
that chewy paper taste?
Yeah, chewy paper taste. Oh, well, that's pretty.
That's gorgeous.
And I have to eat that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask about these desserts here, chefs. Hang on a second. I'm going to get
Chef
a
Mario
photograph.
has prepared a butterscotch pudding with candied dragonflies and superworms.
I love
And
the
Chef-
sugar. I love the sugar on the wings.
Yes, butterscotch pudding
That
with
is
candied dragonflies and superworms. And Chef Marc is preparing buglava. Get it? Buglava.
Clever. Very nice.
Those look beautiful.
Yeah, I like
So tell us about what you did for dessert here, Mario.
We just did a caramel pudding, butterscotch pudding, and we just got the dragonflies and just a little candy for them and toss them in there, sweeten them up a little bit, and a little bit of whipped cream.
Yeah, I'm not
So the dragonflies didn't cook very long in that skillet, just got coated with sugar and warmed up?
Yes.
Excellent. Be interested to see what that's like. And then let's hear some of the details on how this dessert was prepped over here by Marc.
Oh. Well, we took a little twist since we are a Greek restaurant. Baklavas, obviously big in Greece.
You done with these?
So we turned it into a uglava instead of baklava.
I'm a big fan of the clever pun and the neat little name for the bug dish. Very nice. Well done.
Oh, I gotta relax.
And I'll help you guys get these out there too.
This is filling my super shred down.
Here's some buglava for you.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah. There's a little more coming. Here you go.
Okay.
I have to do this one hand at a time, not because I'm holding a mic, but because I never worked as a waiter, so I'm not good at balancing a bunch of them.
Sign of good food. We always forget we have to judge.
Okay.
Here we go.
Y'all are killing it with the presentation. I will definitely say that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's all just wonderfully presented. Really good stuff.
Okay.
At one point, several Bugfests ago, I was one of the chefs, and I always got nervous when I had to go up against a real chef. This is a lot easier, just chatting with everybody and watching it happen.
So this is the buglava. Buglava.
The
Buglava. Yeah? Was that Nigel telling me he was about to eat buglava, or was that Nigel saying I'm going after my second bite because I love the buglava?
I'm going for the second bite.
Yeah, good.
Very good.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Let me just take this picture.
There's no dragonfly on that pudding.
Yes, it is.
Where's your dragonfly?
There.
It's tasty?
Okay.
You got another
I'll
spoon?
start with this one.
I'm up for a little dragonfly.
All right, it's time
You got another
for
spoon back there, Mario?
Meal. Check this out. This is a butterscotch.
Ooh, you have leftover dragonflies?
Dragonflies, and they're also
Yeah.
worms.
This is great.
And
I haven't had a
right
candied
there,
dragonfly.
Buglava with plenty of worms.
I got a candied dragonfly. Can you just have it like that?
Oh, my.
Oh.
Crunchy. Not bad.
That's great.
That's
great.
good.
I love it.
That candied dragonfly is excellent.
I already had a candied dragonfly. I didn't even need to bother with this other stuff.
Oh, and there's mealworms in here too.
Oh, are there?
I didn't notice that.
Is that the bottom? Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. And crunchy surprise. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is unexpected.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, you want to see that? Yeah. Look at this. There's a
Getting some
mealworm in
sugar,
there.
caramelized something at the bottom.
They should have had baby
Dig it
dragonflies
out
in the
for you.
bottom.
There's mealworms in my pudding.
Was there one more candied dragonfly? Ah, there you go. Hot dog.
There we go.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's at.
Oh, good.
Right?
Good.
Wait, is that can you come to me on the scallop?
Sean's got that classic, I've got my mouth full of food, but I have to tell you how tasty it is thing going on. I think he just said, whoa, whoa.
Oh, good.
Very
Yeah,
good.
like that. It's quiet again back there. So how was this dragonfly compared to the one that was with the pork chop?
Much better.
Well, this one, the wings came off.
You just got to eat them then. I mean, you ought to anyway.
Oh, wow, Nigel. He
Still
just
tastes like paper.
ate that like a champ.
You got to fry those wings up.
Sean's going to lick the inside of his cup.
What?
Karen, how'd you like dessert?
I'm about to jump in there.
Buglavas. Oh, you haven't had either one yet. Okay.
Okay.
Linda, what do you think over there?
Wow.
It's fantastic. The mealworms were a surprise. You didn't. I thought, okay, we got the dragonfly on top,
Yeah.
and then you dig in and you take out a bite and you get a mealworm. So it's, but then you get a little bit of the
Fried enough is good.
All right.
like the brown sugar or the caramelization too with it all, and it's quite a wide array of textures and flavors and sensations. It's a delight. It's a palatable delight.
Palatable.
That's great to hear.
A delight, she says.
And keep in mind, if you've bothered to go this route, you know, if you want to say, hey, I want to try to cook some insects, and you add insects to a dish that already calls for small chopped bits of fruit or vegetable or nut or meat, that's certainly one way to do it. But maybe after seeing all this or sampling some things at Cafe Insecta tomorrow, you might say, well, I just want to know what the bug tastes like. And you can cook the bug in fairly plain fashion, just like you would cook a piece of steak without a whole lot of other stuff going on. And they're pretty good by themselves as well as being added to a larger dish.
And again, all of our dishes today, the appetizer, entree, and dessert will be judged on presentation, originality, and taste. That includes the plating, and you guys, we've seen some amazing plating today, some amazing presentation.
Yeah, so we'll thank them again, but just so you know, this has been on my left side here, Chef Marc, I got to get the name right.
Vanscoy.
Vanscoy from Taverna Agora, Greek Kitchen and Bar, is that right? Is that the right name for it? Along with Aaron Moody, who was sous chefing. And then over here from Sullivan's Steakhouse, we had Mario Ledezma and Robert Crawford. Too bad. Yeah, Crawfish. Robert Crawfish, sous chef.
They'll be judged on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the best.
I got more worms than Sean did.
You got more what?
I got more worms than Sean did.
Was he trying to steal them from you? I mean, obviously you're saying lucky me, right?
Yeah, that's
so, I mean,
totally
you gotta get that part.
Lucky me.
Y'all got a lot of food.
Yeah.
I mean, normally someone gets an appetizer, an entree, and a main course, but each of you all got 2 appetizers, 2 entrees, and 2, I mean, dessert, and 2 desserts.
Good.
We have to tabulate soon, don't we? All right.
All right, judges, if your score sheets are complete, I'll take those from you.
All right. The tension is mounting. I think. Chefs, is the tension mounting? They're like, no, we're cleaning up.
Uniforms. There you go.
All right. Sean, you must have like years worth of photos now like that.
I had to keep taking it because I had stuff in my teeth, then I had stuff on my face, and I realized I'm just eating bugs.
Right, right.
Hold on, was it?
When I cook my crickets, usually when they're frozen, I'll knock them around a little bit to get the legs and antennae off, and I order what are 1 molt away from adulthood, so they're full size, but they don't have their wings yet. And then after we oven roast them, we shake them around in a slotted colander to finish getting the legs and the antennae off. And there's 2 reasons for it. One is, if you're cooking, you don't want to have too much particulate matter all over the place, because then you would actually attract real vermin to your kitchen. So the brittle antennae and legs, you don't want them to break off and be all over the place. So there's a sanitary portion of it. But then, getting back to what you were saying, Sean, you know, sometimes I've got, for some weird reason, somebody who's a little anxious about eating a bug, and I might try for 5 minutes to finally convince them to eat a bug, and then all of a sudden they get a leg stuck in their teeth, and there's this whole big production, and, you know, I want it to be a pleasant experience all the way around. Keep in mind, this is the same person who can have steak gristle or popcorn kernels caught in their teeth and they don't mind, but to the extent that we want insect eating to be fun and enjoyable all the way around, not just presentation and taste, but also everything that's happening when you're chewing it, even if you're a little worried, I like to knock the legs and antennae at least off of my smaller bugs.
I think that's a good tip. Because I still feel like I have a cricket leg in my throat from earlier.
You might, but you could also just have a piece of phyllo dough in your throat.
Or it could be phyllo dough. It's so confusing.
All right, we have some math to do over here? Oh, okay. All right.
I have to say, when I was eating the baklava, and I was cutting into it, and are these superworms or mealworms?
Let me have a look.
The big ones?
Those are superworms.
Superworms. So as I was cutting down into it, and it's kind of a tall dessert, as you can see, I cut into it already, took my knife away, and then one of the bugs started to slide down, and for a split second, I thought it was moving, and it took me back, I have to say. Because I thought it was crawling down the dish. And
Well, nobody likes surprises, so if you think it's cooked and it's moving around, yeah. Sometimes when I stir in the pan and a cricket accidentally slips out, you know, the pan is slick, and I'll say, oh, it hopped out, and then I go, no, it didn't hop out. It's you know, it's been frozen.
Now, do you actually ever eat any live bugs?
Yes. So if you look at cultures around the world that eat insects, there are certain things that are typically eaten just literally as they're harvested. Termites are a great example, and my favorite, which I've only had a couple of times in my life, are honeypot ants. And these are certain ants which feed a group of workers sugary exudates from plants, like not just nectar, but other sweet things that the plant puts out. And so these specialized honeypot ant workers, their abdomens become engorged with this sugary liquid. And I told you, I'm a junkie for sweets, right? So you just eat the whole ant. And it's, you know what shaved ice or a snow cone? Just imagine that liquid without the ice. That's what the ants taste like. It's just a sugar bomb, and it's awesome. It's great. Now, I will also tell you that a lot of people are curious about what insects taste like when they're not cooked. So I've had some of them. I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think, I don't like raw dragonflies, but I have to thank my nephew. He was out with me way back years ago. He was 15. And I said, come on, Trip, we gotta catch a bunch of these things. And he's like, Uncle Zack, what do they taste like raw? I said, I don't know. So he starts eating them, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna let that guy show me up. So, you know, I've sampled a lot of stuff, and there are some bugs that are very tasty.
That's what uncles are for.
Yeah, right?
That's a good uncle.
Thanks. All right, how's the math going back there? Where did Emelia go? I got horrible grades in math, so I'm glad she's doing the addition. She's hiding out. Any audience questions about entomophagy? I am happy to answer them, having been at it for a while. Anybody? What? What happened? He wanted to try some, huh? He wanted you to try some, huh? You should. Who's planning to come to Bugfest tomorrow? How many Bugfesters we got? Y'all should come back. It is terrific. As Emelia said, it's almost 40,000 people. It's a free event, in case she didn't mention that, and it's the largest single-day insect festival in the country, maybe in the world. And it's really pretty impressive. It's a whole host of folks here. This is tasty, right?
Yeah, and all these bugs that we ate, we can find here in North Carolina.
You can certainly find darkling beetle larvae. Whether mealworms and superworms occur naturally out here, I don't know. You certainly can get dragonflies, but you're coming up on the tail end of your insect season here. It's going to start to get cooler. And, you know, if you want to go out and catch your own dragonflies, I would say get after it. About 3 weeks from now, it'll be too cool for your dragonflies to be out in force. We didn't have waxworms today. I had mentioned them a bunch of times, but it turns out you didn't. Waxworms are interesting caterpillars. They get their name because they don't eat leaves like most caterpillars. They feed on the wax of honeybee cells. So if you're a beekeeper, you may have waxworms, and you might be pretty upset about that. Whereas if you're an insect eater, waxworms are wonderful. And we'll be serving some tomorrow. At least I know I will. And the house cricket is cosmopolitan in its distribution. So yes, you can poke around and grab your own house crickets. Or you can order these things, you know, from farms that raise these insects by the millions every year.
But they are seasonal in some parts of the country.
Yeah. If you want to harvest your own insects, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I didn't get too far into it when you talked about purging them. If you want to collect your own insects, I would always suggest going to a rural or an undeveloped place rather than in the middle of the city. And people say, pesticides, right? Not necessarily. If your insect is crawling around or flying, it's healthy. It's not been hit with insecticide, but there are other pollutants we have in urban landscapes, whether it's particulate matter that has lead in it or something else, which you probably don't want to eat. And you can rinse your bug and pat it dry. We recommend that also. But if you harvest things out in a field, out in a forest, out in a marsh, chances are that bug is just A-okay the way it is. Catch it, freeze it, cook it, eat it, enjoy. Simple.
What do you do in the winter then? Are there any bugs that are out really in the winter?
You know how the squirrel gets all the acorns before it's cold, and then in the winter it just goes to the acorn drawer. And in my line of work, I work at a museum where we have to order these things because we have thousands and thousands of guests every year, and we're serving insects every day. So you can order them, and they'll come to you just fine. But if you forage for insects and want to eat some in the winter, you better have caught them in the spring and summer. Yeah, the optimal thing to do is to look for insects that are slow, large-moving, colonial, or that at least aggregate. And that way, your caloric investment will be worth the return you get.
So are there bugs you don't eat, like something you stay away from, like
me personally, or that one should avoid?
Or that one collectively should avoid?
Well, we talked a little bit earlier about how heat will denature some of the defensive chemicals that a lot of insects have. And there are some that I don't think even cooking solves that problem. And there are others which have an exoskeleton that's so hard that it's virtually impossible to chew it up. So millipedes, for example, that is a big, slow-moving animal that often is found in dense aggregations. But if you look at cultures around the world that eat bugs, even though millipedes aren't insects, they're just not on the menu. So there are certain things to avoid for that reason. But the primary thing you want to do is avoid them if you're allergic to shellfish. I'll add, though, if you see insects with warning coloration, which is generally dark insects with spots or stripes that are red or white or orange or yellow, that usually means the insect can sting, so you better be careful when you're catching it, or it has a bad taste to it.
Be warned.
Be warned, yeah.
So if you got an insect that has a stinger and you cook it, the stinger could still hurt you in your esophagus.
I suppose that's possible. I mean, I've eaten scorpions with the stinger cut off, but I've eaten plenty with the stinger still intact. And if it's cooked to the point where it's very crispy, once you chew it, it just gets broken up. But yeah, there's a little something, I suppose, to think about there. But the venom itself isn't an issue. You know, it's been dried up by the cooking process, or it goes into your stomach and gets all digested. So no problem there.
So just make sure you chew it well.
Yeah.
So don't cheat and just swallow. Just you've got to chew, right?
Yeah. Well, most scorpions are so big you really couldn't get away with that swallowing it whole business anyway, right? When you went to Southeast Asia, what was your favorite bug out of everything you ate there?
The best one I had actually was in Taiwan, and they did it was a field cricket, and it had a piece of sweet potatoes stuck into its thorax, and then they were like fried with chili.
This was a cricket about the size of my thumb?
Yeah.
It was a really big one? Yeah, I've seen those before. Yeah, that's excellent. I'll also tell you, if you order any of these things online, keep in mind that most of them are dried and they're canned, and almost everything tastes better if it's not from a can. So I'm not saying don't order things online, but if you really are excited about this stuff, you should like cook your own crickets and try some canned crickets and see which one you like better. You'll probably like what you've made yourself a little more.
What would be the turducken of insects, do you think?
Oh man, what a great question. I've been at this 20 years. Nobody's ever asked me, stuff with this, with this, with that. Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, next year we'll check in.
I mean, the first thing I think about is the very large scarab beetles. I've eaten some small scarab beetles. I remember a colleague of mine came into town from Rhode Island, and we caught these very small scarabs that are called rice beetles, and we cooked them 3 different ways. And one of the ways, their hard front wings lifted up, and they're too hard to chew, right? So you were able to hold the head and just bite the abdomen off, and it worked out great. So, you remember the second Raiders of the Lost Ark movie?
And
they lift it up, right? So you want to get a big scarab beetle, and then I don't know what you'd put inside of it, but that's where I'd start. The turducken of insect cooking.
In that Indiana Jones movie, when they lifted it up, whatever was inside, do you think that was already inside the bug, or did they put something in the bug? Because it looked like they licked pudding or
Yeah. It was kind of white and creamy and kind of heavy, kind of like that pudding, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. So
right.
What's to worry about? My guess is that some directors on the set looked at what was really in the beetle and said that's good, or said no, we have to do something different. And who knows? With Hollywood, they do. Boy, we could talk for another 5 hours about the bug stuff on movies where somebody went, what? And just, anyway. Yeah. There was a Big Bang Theory where there was supposed to be an entomologist who studied dung beetles, and he's holding a jar and he's talking about his dung beetle. It was a Madagascar hissing cockroach. I mean, come on.
Right.
But the fact is, it's hard to just go out and catch a dung beetle. So somebody said we need a substitute.
Wait, how is it hard to catch a dung beetle? All you need is dung.
That's not true.
Really?
Yeah. So where would you go to catch a dung beetle? Mr. All you need is dung.
You know what? A cow pasture.
Right.
That's where I would start.
So if you go to a cow pasture, what's going to happen is dung beetles are very sensitive to the molecules that are given off by fresh fecal matter. If it's dry, it's no good to them. And so as soon as it comes out of the big critter and hits the ground, within a few minutes, the dung beetle goes to it. And often, if it doesn't stay inside that pat of manure, which some do, they dig underground, but fast. And if you don't have a shovel, you're going to have to dig. And by the way, a cow pasture, how many targets do you have? How do you know where the dung beetle is? The real trick to catching dung beetles is to go to a place where there's a shortage of large mammals. Put out a bucket of fresh poo. You can get it from wherever you want. But the point is, you want to be the only game in town. And then you'll get dung beetles. But it's not easy to do. We have dung beetles at my museum, and I get them from a cattle farmer in Florida who moves her cows from one field to another, waits a day, and then puts out fresh cow poo in the field that used to be a smorgasbord, and now the buffet is down to that one bucket.
I don't
So-
want that to be the secret ingredient next year.
I haven't eaten.
Go ahead and agree on
I
that.
haven't eaten dung beetles yet.
No dung beetles. I agree.
Maybe I never will. Who
It
knows?
would need to be purged, for sure.
Good.
We would all purge after.
Purge really
Good
well.
point.
Yep.
All right. Is my co-host back yet? This must be some higher math. Amelia, how's your math skills? I got a calculator on my phone if you need it. Got to add like 4 plus 5 plus 3.
I think we're having some kind of a problem here. I think the competition was so tight. You guys did an amazing job. Really, really great.
Yeah.
I've never seen the calculations go this long, so I think there's some trouble based on the quality of what we were eating here today. It was a judging dilemma. I mean, it was really
it
a
was
judging dilemma.
amazing.
I was prepared to tell Emelia I think she needs to be prepared for a tie. today.
Maybe it's a draw.
We need a
next game.
tiebreaker next
Yeah.
year, like just in case, like an extra dish.
Rock, paper, scissors, I think.
Rock,
You know,
paper, scissors.
I want to ask both the chefs the same question. I'm curious if you've done this critter cook-off before, and if this positive reaction is going to make you consider putting insects on your menu.
No. And no.
No.
Fair answer. Mario?
Maybe in a wine dinner.
Maybe a wine dinner? Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you that even though it's it's still a little bit of a novelty, this is growing in popularity. There are restaurants around the country, you guys can look them up, that now have insects on their menu routinely. Most of them have Mexican proprietors who are getting chapulines from Oaxaca, and they're adding them to tacos and dishes like that. And there are also some Asian restaurants that are using silkworm pupae and smaller scorpions. The oldest one is in Santa Monica that was at the airport for a long time, called Typhoon. The one that makes me laugh the most is in Philadelphia because it's actually on Locust Street, which I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's named after the tree, not the bug, which is too bad. Somebody like burst my balloon when I was making that joke one day. But yeah, so if you look around online, you'll see more and more restaurateurs are thinking to themselves, hey, why not add this? And I don't know if I've said this already today. I certainly said it to some of the folks who interviewed us before we got underway, but I'm almost 50, and when I was a kid, if you went up to me and said, hey, I'm going to open a restaurant, we're just going to serve raw fish, right? I'd have looked at you a little funny, and now, you go to the desert and there's sushi restaurants.
Yeah. Right.
And since 2011, the interest in entomophagy has been rising in this country, so it's becoming a little more accepted, and we'll see where it goes.
So in 30 years, when I'm 50,
right?
there'll be
There you go.
restaurants. Okay,
You'll still be here, so,
But-
I'll be hosting like this, and I'll
Right,
say,
exactly.
hey, Karen, how do you like the new restaurant with the bugs?
But when you mention the sushi, the nice thing about bugs is unlike with sushi where the bluefin tuna are being fished out of population, we won't run out of bugs.
We won't. We won't. People have asked me before, well, if you're encouraging folks to go out and collect bugs and this becomes popular, then what happens to the population of the insects? And I will tell you, and most entomologists will tell you, that there's no amount of collecting that's going to take a healthy population and drop it. Insects are way too good at making more of their own kind for that. If you have a population that's already imperiled, which usually involves some kind of a habitat degradation, whether that's pollution or removal of the habitat, then you get species that are known to be rare and limited in number, and those are the ones that are already protected, either on a federal or a state level, and those are the ones you shouldn't go out and collect. But I would say if 50% of the population wanted to turn 50% of their diet into bugs, and a lot of those folks weren't buying them from an insect farmer but collecting them, we'd still have healthy insect populations.
That said, I would love for fire ants to disappear.
Yeah.
Have you ever eaten fire ants?
The very first bug I ever ate was a fire ant. It was a playground dare when I was 8 years old.
That explains a lot.
And my tongue learned a valuable lesson that day, which was not my finest moment. That is the only time I've eaten a fire ant. Do you have results for us, madam?
I do, and boy, you have really stretched. Thank you so much. Y'all give it up for Zack Lemann.
Thank you all. Thanks for
And
coming.
thank you, Nick Swain, for coming back there and checking my math. I wanted to make sure that I got all of this right because there is a lot on the line. These chefs have really done it up. Y'all give it up for Chef Mario Ledezma from Sullivan's Steakhouse, Chef Marc Vanscoy from TAVERNA AGORA. They're both winners in my eyes. But today,
I saw that.
drum roll, please. The winner of our 2017 Bugfest Critter Cook-Off. Let me check one more time. I don't want a whole Faye Dunaway situation. Chef Mario Ledezma from Sullivan's Steakhouse. Thank you so much for participating. And our runner-up today is Chef Marc Vanscoy from TAVERNA AGORA. Again, give it up for our judges, Steve Daniels, Karen Clark, Sean Maroney, Lynda Loveland, who is live right now on WRAL, and Nigel Arms from BASF. Thank you all for being here. Please come out tomorrow and enjoy Bugfest 2017. I'm Mimi Taylor, and this is Zack Lemann. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.